audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk facts.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
Playing on the car ride, play it when you lounge. X and O, you know that we can hold it down. Shout out to my man Sammy, got it off the ground. And to all the listeners tuned in right now, got debates, analysis, and speculation. This is sports talk for the new generation. You know where to find us, got a reputation. Sick podcast, your #1 sports destination.
We're giving all our devotion, riding high on this wave of emotion. Going all out, yeah, cause this is our time. No, ain't no stopping us till we reach the finish line. All in, we came here to win. We're gonna give everything. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick. On fire, we're ready to fight. We'll bring the house down tonight. S-I-C-K on the run. S-I-C-K, sick, sick.
S-I-C-K, it's the sickest podcast. Tune in for the audio, or you can even watch back. Giving players all the props, or put them on blast. We don't give no hot takes, only talk back. S-I-C-K,
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 S-I-C-K.
Turn up your volume. Because you're about to listen to The Sick Podcast. The Eye Test with Pierre, McGuire, and Jimmy Murphy.
The Stanley Cup winning Colorado Avalanche. And after 22 years,
The sickest NHL podcast. It's gonna be sick.
And welcome to another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network on a Monday. And I'll tell you, Pierre, this is one of those Mondays I'm feeling a lot of ranting. I don't know why. So I'm just giving our listeners and viewers fair warning. Man, what drama in the Bruins Panthers series this past weekend. We'll get to that in a second. I do want to mention right now our great sponsors, CBET and TCS Customs and Logistics. Some of the Bruins players might need TCS soon because their season could be over soon. There's plenty of free agents on that roster, Pierre, and they could be looking for new homes and new cities soon. So we'll see what happens with that, but we won't get ahead of ourselves. They do have one game left to play, and it's never over until it's over. That's why they play the game. But let me tell you this right now, guys. TCS is a great customs and logistics company. Michael Maislin is a great hockey fan as well. We're glad to have him on board, so I highly suggest you check it out there. Unlock the full potential of your shipping operation with TCS Customs and Logistics. From around the corner to around the world, flatbeds to air freight, customs clearance to drawback consulting, TCS is a one-stop shop for all things transport. Moving pieces and delivering a peace of mind. For a no-obligation customs or freight quote, contact Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. Again, that's Sick Podcast at shiptcs.com. And then CBET as well. You can throw down plenty of action right now on the Stanley Cup playoffs, the NBA playoffs, MLB baseball, MLS soccer, whatever you want, do it right now. I actually was checking out the lines for my Liverpool Reds who are playing right now. Some good options there for all sports there. So go over to CBET right now. Use the code SICK. That's SICK. SICK is the code to get $300 Canadian back on your first bet. All right, Pierre, we're going to break down Vancouver and Edmonton, but let's get right to the series that everybody is talking right now, and that's the Florida Panthers and the Boston Bruins, Pierre. And look, I want us to get this right out there right now. Have the Bruins gotten hosed? Arguably twice in this series in the last two games, one in each game? Yes, they have. Is that the reason they're losing 3-1 in the series? No. They're losing because the Florida Panthers are a better team and they're playing better right now. And they're making the plays at the right times. And they're hanging around. Even when they're losing, they don't veer from their game and they stick with it and they pull wins out in the end. That's why they are where they are. Would you not agree, Pierre?
No, I agree with everything you just said. There's a lot of stuff going on, though. It's just impossible to quantify everything. What one team's better, one team's worse. Mm-hmm. The biggest part about any major league, and the NHL is a major league, is an integrity of calls, coaching calls, broadcasting calls, mm-hmm. referee calls, mm-hmm. player interaction. Mm-hmm. Calls and integrity matter. So there are a couple things. One, watch the official, Francis Charon, on the goal, no goal, goalie interference, no goalie interference. He's the down low official.
Yep.
He's supposed to be watching that entire area. He never deviates. He only watches the goal and the goal line. Mm-hmm. He's got to be the guy that sees that. He's looking right at the play.
Well,
and I asked you to watch it, and I know you did. Yep. And you know what I'm talking about.
Yep.
So he never deviates. All he does is point goal.
Yep.
He doesn't do anything else. You know what? People can argue about goalie interference and all this other stuff because I watched Game 5 like you did between Tampa and Florida.
Yes.
Anthony Sinelli scored what could have been the tying goal.
Mm-hmm.
And they call goalie interference in that call. I beg you to watch that and say, that was goalie interference and the one in Boston wasn't?
Yeah.
Okay, that's number one because it involves players from both teams jostling for position and everything. Okay, that's number one. Number two, and this is, I think, really important in the whole play, you didn't have to call goalie interference. You could have called interference.
Or cross-checking.
Or cross-checking. There were other avenues you could have gone down as an official, Francis Charon, if you're watching the play, but you're watching for the goal. I don't know what the tail referee was watching.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea, but they didn't see that. Everybody else saw it except for them.
Yep. All right. So let's go to that clip right now, just for listeners who may have missed it, or just for ones who did, and we'll review what happened there. Let's go to Sam Bennett's game-tying goal, 3:41 into the third period, where he cross-checks, clear as day, Charlie Coyle right into Bruins goalie Jeremy Swayman, then impeding him from getting to the puck when he shoots it into the empty net. Let's go to the clip right now.
A shot that's blocked down. Puck still alive. Kicked out, and they score! It's Bennett with the power play goal to tie it.
The first shot has knocked down Peak. He is still on the ice. Bennett's the one that to the right of the goaltender that bangs home this rebound after Tarasenko just let one rip. The shot comes from the left side of your screen. After it moves over there, one touch pass, didn't have a lot on it. There it hits at Peak, and that's why it's a broken play. And then you see one of the forwards came back and landed on top of the goaltender. Who's that? Is it Coyle? Oh, he got shoved by Bennett from behind. Watch Bennett right here. A shove into the goaltender, and then the goal right there.
And so they're going to challenge it.
Oh, there was
exactly that.
All right. So that is, by every definition of the Rule 69, plain and simple there. He's shoved right into the goalie. The goalie cannot possibly play the puck there. He has no chance to do so. Now, some people out there are trying to say, well, it wasn't that hard a shove, and Coyle could have battled harder for the puck there, or kept his balance a little more and lay it a little on Coyle there. I 100% disagree. I 100% disagree.
But Bennett coming.
It all goes back to what you said, Pierre. He had two options there that he didn't even give himself, and that's Sharon I'm talking about, to call either cross-checking or interference. Because even if you don't think it's a cross-check, he still interfered. It's clear as day. And right then and there, with Bennett touching the puck, as you pointed out to me over the phone earlier, the play's dead. And so then the puck never has a chance, like the goal just is disallowed right away. And that's it. And that's the end of it. We move on. And again, I am not blaming this for the Bruins losing. I'm blaming the Bruins for that. But I want to make that clear. This isn't a guy from Boston who covers the Bruins, being a fanboy and favoring the Bruins in my coverage of this situation. I'm not at all. And if you go to Twitter right now. I've been very critical of the Bruins and their play in this series right now. And another thing too, good teams overcome these moments. You need to dig deep and get more mental fortitude. And I think the Bruins have failed to do that. But when we're talking about this specific play, they dropped it. And now we asked Jim Montgomery about it after the game, Pierre, and I want our listeners to hear what he had to say here. We got that Jim Montgomery clip?
Toronto ruled that it was a good goal, that the play didn't interfere with the goal. That's the explanation I got.
What did you see on it? When you saw the replay, you made the decision to challenge. What led to that decision?
We thought that Coyle was on top of our goaltender, and if Coyle was able to stand his ground, he could have cleared the puck. That inhibited our goaltender from being able to react to play in the puck.
Dan?
Jim, just obviously with the way things went down in the challenge and losing that, how frustrating did it become for you, the team, as you went about your business?
Yeah, I really liked the way the team responded. They just talked about the next play and trying to kill that next power play.
We'll go Chris again.
On the two Hampus-Lindholm interference calls, what did you see on those? Do you think that they were warranted?
I think it's playoff hockey, and there's hard plays in playoff hockey. I don't see a scoring chance in either one of them. So I just think it's good hard hockey plays that happen in playoff hockey.
Greg?
Was there a bit of extra frustration on the second goal that it was Bennett that scored it?
No.
Tara.
39 saves for Jeremy, and on the losing end, how well did he play? Keep you guys in the game?
Swayman was really good. Gave us the opportunity, and I think we missed 4 odd man rushes in the second that could have really extended our lead.
Dan.
As a coach, Jim, what's the thought process now as you try to move forward down 3-1?
My mind's not there right now. It's a tough loss, and we'll start looking at ways to improve again tomorrow.
Good answers there. I do think it does mean something extra that Sam Bennett scored, though, Pierre. It had to sting a little more.
Well, coaches you know what? I got to tell you, coaches really don't worry about that stuff. They don't worry about it.
The players all admitted it to a man, though, after the game.
Yeah, the player. They were like,
the
players, yes. For the coach, no. The coach doesn't worry about that. He's got to worry about the match. He's got to worry about strategy. He's got to worry about the challenge that just got overturned, obviously. What's hard, I still, the more I think about it, it's hard for me to understand how no one, and I mean no one, that was doing that game didn't come up with, wait a second, that's a cross check, or wait a second, that's interference. And how is that play not blown dead?
Well, Pierre, I know you can hear it. Bob Beers, the color man on 98.5, the Sports Hub in Boston, the flagship station for the Bruins, he was all over that right away. Because the play-by-play guy, the play-by-play, and he former Bruins defenseman, by the way, the play-by-play man, Judd Surratt, had no clue. He didn't understand why are they reviewing it. And Beers just was going nuts. He says, "Are you kidding me? Why are they reviewing it?" And he said exactly everything you said. So I do want to credit him. He was all over it from the get-go.
Bobby. Good for him. That's right. He did the right thing.
And I'm seeing people there in the comment room saying it doesn't matter. Barkov scored; they would have won anyways. You're probably right. And you know what? Good on Montgomery to point out that hey, we still missed 2 grade A chances, and that's Jake DeBrusk and Charlie Coyle he's talking about in the second half of the second period, who had great chances to score and pad the lead. I mean, Pierre, by the time this happens, if the Bruins convert those chances, they could have been up 4-1. So, again, by no means are we making an excuse for the Bruins. No. We're just trying to say we don't like where the integrity of the game has been left with certain calls in the playoffs. And I'm so glad you brought up Cirelli there, Pierre. And I also want to mention, as I did to you before we came on here, and you agree with him, our good friend Jeff Marek, who, by the way, is going to try and come on soon with us. He really had no voice. He was going to come on today, but he just had no voice to do it. We hope he feels better. But he made a great point saying, look, all right, let's say you're right, that there's no interference there. Let's just say you're right. But how are we going to let a play like that call back a goal versus what we do with offsides, where we're looking at every little millimeter, every little pixel to determine if a goal that was not affected at all by the offsides, 30 seconds, 40 seconds later, is a goal or not. We have to have consistency in how we officiate the games right now and how we keep goals on the board to take them off. And I think Jeff's exactly right, Pierre.
Well, we talked about this last week. The one concern we had was the caliber, the consistency of the officiating. Mm-hmm. It's been a rough playoff.
It really has.
And I'm the biggest
we feel officials.
Yeah.
We love the officials.
Proponent of the professional. Jimmy, just take a break for a sec.
Yeah.
I'm the biggest proponent of the officials in the league, okay? Just telling you. The biggest proponent of professionalism of the officials. Doesn't mean they can't miss calls. Mm-hmm. And they've missed a lot.
Yeah. And we have empathy for what they go through. It's a tough job. It's a thankless job. But, yeah, I'm with you on that. Pierre, I want to go back before we move on from this series, go back to Game 3 and, of course, the other disputed play, whether Brad Marchand was sucker punched or not. You couldn't really tell from the first clip of Sam Bennett hitting him with a reverse hit. However, what I did find interesting was in the immediate aftermath of that, I don't know if they just didn't get it or they just chose not to show it. When Marchand goes down, Pierre, he gets up and then he falls back down and he's then helped off the ice wobbly to the bench, which, would usually signify head trauma or something going on there. That was never shown, which I found a little interesting. But, for 2 days, we go without any explanation of what happened here. And the Bruins are livid, saying, hey, this was more than just a hit. There was a punch there. Now, you can't see it directly in that first video clip. However, you do see Marchand's head jerk back as if he was punched before he goes to the ice. And then finally, before the game last night, we get the clip that shows clear as day Sam Bennett sucker punching Brad Marchand. My question, Pierre, and you don't have to comment on this, is one thing I want to point out is Darren Pang is right there as he's doing the job that you used to do for NBC, and he's right there, and it's right in front of him, and he sees it, and he says nothing about it until he's asked about it last night after the clip comes out. And also, I'm just wondering if the NHL has the rights to all these different angles of their games. How is this just discovered now? There's too many questions that aren't answered right now and probably will go unanswered going forward, Pierre.
Yeah, I don't want to talk about TV production or TV talent. Not my job.
That's fine. Yep.
I will tell you that I watched the game just like you did, and like most of the fans that are watching us and listening to us right now.
Mm-hmm.
I was really surprised that more wasn't made out of it. I really was. Now, I watched only the one angle, and I will say to everybody here what I said to you. I don't see a punch. I didn't see it. But as soon as I saw the other angle, I did see a punch.
Mm-hmm.
I did. So the first way I looked at it, I'm like, okay, I don't see it. The second angle I do. I see exactly why there could have been trauma or a problem. But having worked in that position, that's coming right into your living room if you're working down there.
Mm-hmm.
That's coming right in, and you hear the noises.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know. Maybe Darren was looking at his notes. Maybe he was setting up replay sequences, which you do down there. Just to be fair, you do set up replay packages with the people in the truck. So sometimes you're not watching the ice. It's for the people upstairs to be watching the ice. And other times you see everything and you're on it and you're like, whoa, wait a second, this is exactly what happened. So I don't know which one of those situations Darren was in, but we didn't hear anything about this until Saturday night into Sunday morning.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of different for sure.
So my follow-up question then, Pierre, and this is the last we'll mention about it because it's being talked about ad nauseum, is does the league owe at least an explanation or an admission that they missed something there to the fans, to the Bruins, to the Panthers, to the game of hockey? Do they owe some kind of explanation / admission right now?
I don't know about what the league owes or doesn't owe, but here's what I do know. I watch all the sports, and I admire when the NFL sees they made a mistake with an officiating crew.
What I'm getting at.
They say we made a mistake with the officiating crew. We're going to make sure our work to make sure that doesn't happen again. In the NBA, when they made a mistake, and there have been some mistakes made recently in some pretty big series, the NBA says right away, that should have been a foul against Philadelphia, or that should have been a foul against New York. They say it.
Yeah.
We missed it. We didn't get it right. I think we need to start getting there.
Yeah, I do too, Pierre. Pierre, what do you and I always say on this show? It can never hurt to admit when you're wrong. It only makes you look better.
Scouts make mistakes, coaches make mistakes, players make mistakes, referees, broadcasters make mistakes. People make mistakes.
Yeah,
everybody makes mistakes, and so just say it. Just it's not that painful.
Yeah,
just say it. I think you'll get more for it if you.
And
just
what it does, Pierre? It doesn't necessarily kill it altogether, but it helps move on from the discussion and let people talk more about the game or the game ahead of you rather than the game behind you. The
one thing we need to say about this series right now, the Florida Panthers are a better team right now. It doesn't mean that they're going to be this could go 7 games and Boston could win. I don't know. But right now, the Florida Panthers are the better team. If you don't get 20 shots in a playoff game, it's almost impossible for you to win. I can think of the Edmonton Oilers in one game in LA. They had 13 shots on goal. They won the game. Yep. They scored on a power play goal. Evan Bouchard scored on a power play goal. Now that's against a Kings team that wasn't great. They were okay. They were adequate. But Edmonton only had 13 shots on net. I can think of another game where Vancouver won against Nashville, and I think they had less than 20 shots on goal. But very seldom in any game, forgetting that it's a playoff game in the second round, are you going to win unless you get over 20 shots? And more times than not, you got to be pushing 30 to win. You really do.
There are two things I totally agree with you. And by the way, Edmonton last night outshot Vancouver 45-18. Vancouver still won.
Yeah, and they lost again.
But and powering through. But I'm glad you're saying that. And I was thinking as we were listening to Jim Montgomery there too, how tired must Montgomery be of saying, and also maybe Swayman of hearing, but neither of them's going to say it. But I mean, I'm just calling a spade of saying, oh yeah, our goalie gave us a chance to win, but we didn't. Oh, our goalie gave us a chance to win, but we didn't. It's the same thing every game almost in the playoffs. And it's a pattern there, and I don't know how they get out of it, Pierre. I just, as a coach, if you're seeing this with your team not getting these shots, or I don't know if they're passing them up, but just not finding a way to get the shots through, what are you telling them on the bench in the dressing room right now?
Well, we got to capitalize on opportunities. We got to generate shots on goal, and when you get opportunities of breakaways or 2-on-1s, you got to get them to the back of the net. I mean, players understand that, but you got to harp on it all the time. It's interesting. I was talking to a really, really good hockey person this morning who's still working in the league. He made a really good point to me. He said, Pasternak's showed a lot of courage and a lot of bravery. He's their best pure scorer. You can't argue that. He's their best pure scorer. But it's almost like his vision's been taken off of the scoring, and it's being put on to physical, rough, tough, mean, hit people. I don't remember Mike Bossy doing that.
No.
This guy was a really good player, 66 in Pittsburgh. Very seldom did he have to do that. We had people around that would take care of that for him. Those great players, they have to engage, but they don't have to dictate. There's a big difference.
That's a great way to put it. I'm with you, Pierre. I've noticed it too, and I think we touched on it a bit towards the end of the Toronto series, right? Where he's and look, I'm not knocking him for this, Pierre. I admire him for doing it because he's trying to be a great team player.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's just trying to overcompensate for deficiencies on the roster. And that's not his fault. And you have to look upstairs for that right now. But there's nothing you can do about that right now because it's the playoffs and whatever. They'll deal with that.
Donnie was in a tough spot. People are going to go after Donnie. I don't think
I was just going to go there, Pierre. Don't worry. I agree.
I know, but I want people to know, like, I really admire what Donnie Sweeney's done with this team. I really do. I know, there are a lot of people in Boston that would respectfully go right after me, which I'm fine with. I get it. They don't think Donnie's done a very good job. Well, I think he has. And I think this summer will be the real measuring stick for where Donnie is as a GM, because they're going to have to, whether they win this series or not. The fact they had to go 7 games with Toronto, that's what put them in a bad spot in this series.
Yes.
I'll tell you that right now. Yeah. That's why they might have won game 1 on all that, daddy strength they were talking about for Brandon Carlo and all the emotion around the room. They got crushed in game 2. They didn't get beat. They got crushed.
They got crushed in game 3.
And it carried over to game 3, and it definitely carried over to the second half of game 4. And now you're going to Florida for game 5 and you're facing elimination. So here's what nobody wants to talk about. They should have been out of that Toronto series in 5 games. And they didn't. They went 7.
Yeah.
So Donnie knows with the roster that he has, he's got some work to do.
Yep.
He does.
And I'm confident he will. I mean, he's got tons of cap space to do it.
I think they're going to – I think he's got tons of cap space. And Boston's an admirable place to want to live and raise a family and play hockey.
Yep. I agree. And Pierre, look, I'm not saying this as an insult. I'm just saying they are where they are. And I don't think many people had them getting out of the first round, let alone to game 5 of the second. When you looked at this team coming into the season, everyone knew the centers they lost and their issues up the middle and some of the deficiencies on defense. And it is what it is. And I think this team, I don't think anyone can sit there, and I know it's frustrating for fans, and you see the team get so little shots per game, and you want to say, well, they're not trying, or they're not into it, and their heads aren't. I say nonsense. These guys are trying. They're trying their hardest, and to be honest, I think they've overachieved a little.
I don't think they have much left to give, Jimmy. I think the tank's almost empty.
Yeah.
You know, they're trying their butts off. They are. Collectively, they are trying. You know, you and I, a long time ago, and I think we're going to go back to November, December, we talked about Noah Hannafin.
Started this, yeah.
We talked, right? We started it here, I think, on the show. Like, Noah Hannafin should be in Boston.
Exactly.
He would, and he would have made a difference.
And Pierre, arguably the player that struggled the most in this series and at times during the Toronto Maple Leafs, is Charlie McAvoy, who is
he's so lucky, by the way. This is another one where the officials botched it. Okay. And I was surprised. I'm surprised that the TV people played it up as big as they did, talking about the big hit on Reinhart, on Sammy Reinhart early in the game. That's textbook interference. It's textbook. He never made a play on the puck. And all I kept seeing were replays of how great Charlie McAvoy was. And I'm like, whoa, wait a second. That's a penalty.
Yeah.
Don't tell me textbook. That's it. That's right in the manual for interference.
Yeah, I know. So it goes both ways. That's what we're trying to tell everybody out there. It's
I mean, all I'm saying is, the Bruins, I think, have done admirably well. I really think they have. I just don't know how much they have left to give. And I think whenever it's over, whether they win this round, move on, win the cup, whatever, we're going to find out so many stories about hurt guys.
Yeah,
I think a lot of good. Those extra games in the Toronto series hurt this team badly.
Yes,
hurt them badly.
Yep. And I want to look at the other side too and give a lot of credit to Bill Zito and Paul Maurice, but Bill Zito too for the way he's constructed this roster, Pierre. And just to draw a Bruins analogy, they remind me so much of the 2011 Boston Bruins. They really do. Just how physical they are, how skilled they are, the mental fortitude they have, the way they can walk the line, and get under the skin of other teams. This is what the Bruins did to a lot of teams for a few years back there, from 2009 to say 2013, 2014. And that's the type of hockey that wins in the playoffs. We said it all season. The Florida Panthers are playing playoff hockey in the regular season, and somehow they were able to do it for a long period of time right into the playoffs. But this team is how you want your team to be in the playoffs.
Well, a couple guys have really gone to another level. Brandon Montour's gone to another level. We talked about it last week. There's going to be an amazing Christmas party at Matt Cater's house because he's his agent. So I'm just putting it out there right now. If you like good Christmas parties, call up Matt Cater because after he gets Montour's contract done, he's going to be swimming in it, if you know what I mean. And then the other one, and nobody's giving him any credit at all. Joel Quenneville deserves a ton of credit. Gustav Forsling. Joel was in Chicago. They traded Adam Clendenning to Vancouver for Gustav Forsling, 1-for-1. Can't make that up. If you don't believe me, go check it out.
Wow.
That was a 1-for-1 deal. And then Joel went from Chicago, obviously, to Florida, and they brought him into Florida, and that kid's just thriving. He's playing so well. He's such a good player. So there's a lot of guys there that people didn't realize how good they were. Scouts made mistakes, managers made mistakes, coaches misevaluated. They end up going to Florida, and this is on Zito's watch, along with Quenneville at the beginning. These guys have turned out. They've turned out really well.
Yeah. How about Anton
Can you
Lundell?
explain one thing to me? What was wrong with Sam Bennett that Calgary didn't want to keep him?
I have no idea. You made the best point, Pierre. I think it was last week. You said, did they not watch him in the games against the Edmonton Oilers in one of the most heated rivalries in the history of this sport?
I was out there watching. I was out there scouting. And I was like, this guy's a menace.
And he's
in a good way. Not in a bad way, in a good way.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't get it. I don't get it. But
yeah, it's unreal. And how about Anton Lundell? I'm texting you last night.
That was a good draft pick. That was a really good pick. He was a guy that dominated World Junior for Finland. He was a kid playing in the men's league over there. Good, really, you knew he was going to be good. It's just it was a matter of time with him.
Yep.
But everything was there. The hockey sense was there. The compete was there. The toughness was there. Skill level and the skating. It was all there. It was just a matter of getting more mature. But that was a real good pick. Florida's done some nice things with their picks. They've done some really good things.
We all know he's good. He's a superstar. But unfortunately, he's in a market that maybe he doesn't get enough attention. But Sasha Barkov can just take over a game, Pierre. Like, just all right, guys, don't worry about this. I got it. And then
so Dale Talon, Jimmy. Wow. Dale Talon deserves all the credit there with his scouting staff. And, Dale's the one that did that. And a lot of people kind of were not sure, and Dale was sure. And they did a real good job on that. And obviously, I was looking at it the other day, and it was 3 or 4 days ago. I think he's only been a minus player one time in 11 years. He's been in the league 11 years. Jimmy, one time.
I know.
Minus. And there were some bad teams that he played on. There were some really bad teams.
Jeez. Look at the way he went through the team on that winning goal, too. I mean, that was
who played great yesterday? This is on the Pro Scouts. Kyle Oposo.
Yeah.
Kyle Oposo played a really good. I think he played right around 9-10 minutes, a little less than 10. He played a real good. So it's at the amateur level, it's at the pro level. Their coaching staff, we've talked about them ad nauseum. They've done a really good job there. And one of the guys I forgot on their staff, by the way, and I'm such a big fan. He's a Finnish guy, Tuomo Ruutu. Tuomo's such a good person and such a good coach. Just Tuomo, just tremendous and a good hockey man. And I'll tell you what, if you ever want to see tapes of a guy that is a battler, go watch the 2003 World Junior in Finland. They got a bronze medal that year, and a lot of people thought no chance. And one of the big guys on that team was Tuomo Ruutu. I just can't say enough good things about him and his family. Obviously, Jarkko played in the NHL for a long period of time, and their other brother, Mikko, who I used to work with him actually. He's just a great guy. He lives in Helsinki, and he does a lot of good work, a lot of good handiwork as a scout for NHL teams. So I'm a big fan of their families. But I just saw – I've been talking about Jamie Compon all the time. I've been talking about Paul Maurice all the time, Robbie Tallis with their goalies, Sylvain Lefebvre with their defense. And I've kind of not talked about Tuomo, and I should have, and I apologize. So there's another guy in that staff that's really good.
And just so you and our listeners and viewers know, too, Kyle Okposo last night had an assist, played 10:32, 14 shifts, 1 shot, 3 hits. Pierre, I'm glad you brought him up, too, because I remember when they got him from Buffalo, I said, this could be a sneaky good pickup because this guy's, let's call a spade. He's at the end of his career. Not much time left, probably. He's going to come in there motivated because he knows he's going to a team that really has a good window to the championship right now if they want it. And he's found a new level. He's found a second win in his career right now. And it's great to watch because I've always been a fan of his game. I've always been a fan of the person as well. So good on Kyle Okposo.
Good for you for raising that. The other thing too, Jimmy, I'll never forget when he broke in with Islanders, he and Tavares together.
Oh, yeah.
Were really good. That was a really good combo there. But Kyle's been a pro for a long time. I'll never forget he left the University of Minnesota after the 2007 World Junior in Leksand, Sweden. I remember talking to him. He said, I'm not going back to school. I'm turning pro. I'm like, what? And, I wasn't going to break the news. It wasn't my spot to break it.
Right.
But I remember him telling me that at the rink, and I was like, wow, that's kind of neat. Leksands an amazing place in Sweden. It's a great hockey market, and the rink is awesome. But I'll never forget Kyle telling me that. I was like, "Oh, that's interesting."
Pierre, let's go to the late game there too. And you and I were talking about this right now. I think one of the major differences in this series has been the coaching, and that's not to knock the job that Knoblauch's doing. I just think Tockett's doing a better job. I think that his persona, as you know from coaching him as a player, the way he sees the game, the way he feels the game has really perfectly meshed with this team. and also meshes with playoff hockey. And I think we're seeing that right now.
Go watch the first shift of that game. All you need to do, to Jimmy's point, watch the first shift of that game and just watch Dakota Joshua. That's all you need to do. Just watch Dakota Joshua.
Mm-hmm.
And then you'll say, okay, I get what Jimmy Murphy's talking about. And it wasn't just that, but that's the first one. It's easy to find on tape.
And that sets the tone.
And then it set the whole tone. What an amazing – and then obviously they get a power play goal. Matthias Ekholm gets a power play goal. And then you see Vancouver reel the game in. They never broke. They don't break because they're like their coach.
Yep.
You know, they've lost their goalie. This is their third-string goalie.
I know. And credit to him, Pierre. He's played amazing. And I know
Ian Clark,
got a good shell around him. I get that, but he's playing well.
Ian Clark, the goalie coach, deserves a lot of credit there. We talked about him, 3 weeks ago, whenever it happened, the injuries to Smith. We talked about him. He's done a really good job there. So, again, underappreciated assets sometimes have a chance of really being superstars in the playoffs if they're trained properly. And this guy's been trained, and he's ready to go. And great on him. It's great.
Now, unfortunately, Pierre, that's not what everybody's talking about out of this game because of what happened in the end with Zadorov and Soucy on McDavid. Now, first off, let's just clarify something because nobody seems to be mentioning how this all started at the end of the game after the final horn sounded. McDavid lays a pretty nasty slash down, and the Canucks retaliate. Now, did they retaliate a little too much to an extreme? Yes, they did, and they're going to be properly punished. One of them already has. Another one will.
Yeah.
But here's my confusion, Pierre, and I think we're both in agreement on this. I thought what Zadorov did was worse than what Soucy did, and it looks like Soucy is the one that's going to get a suspension, and, of course, Zadorov has already been fined.
Yeah, Zadorov's paid a $5,000 fine. I didn't like the slash, obvious, from McDavid to the right knee of Soucy. Soucy's going to be the victim of circumstance here. First of all, I just want to qualify everything. I'm really glad that Connor McDavid's not hurt.
Yes.
That could have been really bad, Jimmy. I'm telling you, that had a chance. Carson Soucy's a huge person. He's a gigantically big man. Nikita Zadorov is Ivan Drago on skates. He's a big, tough, mean person. And I mean, when I say mean, I don't mean like he's a tough guy. He's really tough. He's mean to play against. He is. He knows his identity. He shouldn't have done what he did. I get it. The cross check. And it wasn't very much. Listen, you get cross checked by Zadorov, and you tell me that wasn't much. Trust me, he's a big, strong guy.
Almost simultaneously as you're getting hit from the other end.
Well, that's the problem. And then it's the big cross check in the face. Like I said, I'm glad McDavid's not hurt. He's going to be able to play in Game 4, which is great for the fans, and it's great for the city of Edmonton. But that's not going to bother Vancouver. We just talked about why they're so resilient. They're resilient because their coach is unbelievable. And I say unbelievable because I'd love for the revisionist history to start. When Rick got hired last year. Oh, what are we doing? This guy can't coach. He's terrible. Go check out all the newspaper stories. I read them all.
Yeah.
I was like, oh, this is bad. I can't believe people are saying this stuff. And it was bad. It was really bad. He's a tremendous coach. I've been as far as you can go in the playoffs with him as part of our team. And tell you one thing, big part. Ask anybody that was on the 92 Pittsburgh Penguins how big a role Rick Taka played as a player, and it was massive. Massive.
For sure. Pierre, before we go ahead to the games tonight, I just want to talk about two news stories coming out in the last 24 hours. One of them being that it appears the Toronto Maple Leafs have interviewed Todd McClellan and Craig Berube, looking at their coaching styles, Pierre. Who I'm not going to put you on a spot to say who would be a better fit. What I will ask you is, how would each coach help them?
McClellan would institute defensive tactics that I think would help Toronto, especially if they don't change their roster much. So I think their down low coverage would be better. I think their in zone coverage would be better. And I think their neutral zone play would be more layered and structured, kind of what we saw in games 5, 6, and 7 from Toronto this year. I know it was late into the process, but they tried. Berube would hold players accountable, especially the stars. I think so. You'd see more consistent overall effort from them. It wouldn't be 5 games great, 2 games bad. It'd probably be 6 games great, 1 game bad. He's just like that. He's very good with star players in terms of raising them up to another level. And I think tactically he would hire people that would probably help him, especially on the power play, which I think is important considering where they were in the playoffs with not a very good power play, which was still mind-boggling. But no, those are 2 competent people that they're interviewing. I think was smart. They both have their merits, and I'm friends with both guys, so I'm not going to pick one over the other. Just going to say they both have their strengths and they both have weaknesses like everybody else that coaches in the league. There's no perfect coach. The only perfect one is a friend of our shows, and he's 90 years old, and he would be the best pick, and I just don't think he wants to coach anymore. But he should. Scotty Bowman.
There you go. Oh, yeah, he would be great. We got to get Scotty on again soon, Pierre, as we go.
We're going to try to get him on before the second round starts, before the third round starts.
So my other story I wanted to ask you about, because I think it's one that's it is slipping through the cracks and will slip through the cracks, but I think a key move is that the Buffalo Sabres have promoted their minor league coach, Seth Appert, as an assistant under Lindy Ruff. I get the feeling, the path is being paved right now for him to go under Ruff, be mentored by him, learn more, and eventually, if all goes well, become the head coach after Ruff.
If they don't have a good year next year, all bets are off.
That is absolutely correct. Yes.
I'll tell you that right now.
Yeah.
So I'll agree with everything you're saying, except to say if they don't have a good year next year, I think all bets are off for everybody there. Because there's no more camouflage. There's no more mascara you can put on that. If it doesn't work next year, then there's a big problem. So that's what I'll say. But Seth Appert's a deserving candidate. I think he'll help Lindy a lot. He did a real good job with their farm team in Rochester. Michael Pekka worked with him. And Michael did nothing but great things to say. So when Michael tells me that, I believe him. I'm a big fan of Michael. Obviously, I think people that watch the show know that. And I think he's done great things with the Rangers too. Who knows what his future is? It's extremely bright though. But it's a good opportunity for Seth. He was there's a big USA hockey contingent in Buffalo.
Yep.
There's a real big one. And so Seth was part of that program. And I think they just promote internally, which is not a bad thing. Actually, it's a good thing. It rewards success.
Yeah.
And so I think that's part of it. The USA hockey tie-in's a big part of it.
All right, good stuff. Let's go to the games tonight. Pierre, the New York Rangers have another chance to clinch over the Carolina Hurricanes, this time on home ice. I can't really see Carolina pulling this out, but then again, you never know. But I want to look back a bit because we haven't discussed Game 4 and what happened there. And look, Rod Brindamore himself said it after the game in his press conference. The Rangers were the better team in that game. And that's why I say what I am saying now about Game 5, where I think they finish it off. Hats off to Carolina for a great season, but I just don't think they've got the gas left. And I think that the Rangers will carry that into this game.
They better, because I'll tell you one thing: if they lose Game 5 at home, they better get ready for Game 7.
Yeah, I'm with you. Because
Carolina, this is a huge game. This is a huge game for New York to get it done. And don't do what Boston did in the last round against Toronto. Don't do that because you're going to be in trouble. I do think the Rangers will be more energized. I didn't like their start. I thought they were terrible out of the gate in Game 4. But give them credit. The last 40 minutes, they were the better team. I think that's what Rod was talking about. They were the better team. But the first 20 minutes, they weren't good at all. They were not good.
I was going to ask you about that too. Not that they would do this on purpose, but maybe subconsciously, does a team, when you're facing a team and you have a chance to clinch a series, right? So the other team is going to be playing desperate. They're fighting for their lives. They're going to throw everything but the kitchen sink at you in that first period. Does the team with the chance to clinch maybe subconsciously say, all right, let's just get through this, be within striking distance, and then we'll take it from there and see, as long as we survive this initial wave in the first 20 minutes, we're good.
It depends on the makeup of the room.
Okay.
It's not the coaching message that really
Well, you know what I'm
matters.
getting at, right?
I 100% know what you're getting at. That's why I'm answering the way I am. If you got really diligent guys in the room that are unbelievably hard on it all the time, and they say, boys, tonight's a chance for us to have a green light night. Green light meaning when it's done, we get some days to relax and chill out. We're getting it done tonight, and everybody pulls a rope in the same direction. It's very therapeutic. Some teams do what you say, Jimmy, and they're just like, let's just weather the first 10 minutes, get through it, and then our skill will take over and we'll start. That's not the best way to approach it. And that's why I tell you all the time, the 92 Penguins are the only team to win 11 in a row. They swept 2 series in a row. You know, they had to win 3 closeout games in a row. And I'm just telling you, it wasn't because of Scotty, it wasn't because of Rick, it wasn't because of me, it wasn't because of Barry. It's because of 66 and 10 and 25 and 92. Go down the line, and these are all players' numbers, obviously. 55 for Murphy, Gordy Roberts, they were hard on it. They wanted to get out of series because they knew they'd gone through it the year before. They knew the faster we got the series, the better it is for us.
That's a good point. And you know what? I was just gonna cite this little tidbit. My friend, Boston Globe reporter Tara Sullivan, pointed out in our media meal last night to us. She said that in 1994, because she's a big Rangers fan, they swept the first round, and they won. They had a chance to sweep on the road again in the second round, but they lost, and then they came back and won in 5.
Yeah.
So there's some parallels going on 30 years later. Is destiny in the works in the New York Rangers? As I pointed out to you, that was also during that series was also the O.J. Simpson car chase, and he just passed away. I don't know. There's all these voodoo things going on.
Can I give you one other thing? I don't think any of the players in the Rangers were born then. So it really doesn't matter.
I know. I'm just having fun, and you know
that. I know. Yeah.
One thing I will say, though, Pierre, you brought about that, like you're saying, that's a good point by you, too, though. How about the Rangers the year before they won it? You know, they blew a lead. And
they did. Yeah. So that was the unbelievable run by the Montreal Canadiens. That year, Patrick Roy and the Canadiens won 10 games in overtime in the playoffs. You got to win 16 to win the cup. 10 of their 16 were in overtime.
That's insane.
That's unbelievable.
I know.
Most teams don't win 10 in the regular season. They in 82 games. They won 10 in 24 or 25, whatever they played that year. But Patty was amazing that year. Patty Roy was amazing. He was unbelievable that year. And Jacques Demers, hey, give credit where credit's due. The two Jacques Demers and Jacques Laperriere, with a little help from Stevie Shutt. That was a good staff. Good guys, and really big fan of that staff. I even though I had a coach against them, I liked spending time with those guys. They were really honorable, classy people. Really, really fun.
All right, let's look ahead now. To
hey, Jimmy, yes. a lot older than me, just so you know.
I know that, Pierre. I mean, you know.
I'm only joking.
You're only 54, right? Pierre, let's look ahead now. The Avalanche and the Stars are going to play game 4. I'm losing track.
Game 4.
Yes, and I want to look back at game 3, Pierre, where we've been saying
one guy, Jake
Ottinger. Jake Ottinger was the difference in that game, a 4-1 win for the Dallas Stars. He was
before the playoffs started. Go back and look at the eye test before the playoffs started. Jimmy was asked all these questions, and we both said it almost at the same time. This is going to be Ottinger. If Dallas wins, it's going to be Ottinger's coming out party.
Yep.
And he was no good games 1 and 2.
Yeah,
against Vegas, he'd be the first guy to tell you he wasn't good.
No.
But man, oh man.
It might have been what he needed, eh? Like it might have just been kind of that way.
He got his attention for sure. Yeah. Got his attention. So he's been good.
By the way,
they can match up. And getting Tanev helps with a matchup. Esa Lindell matches up. So it makes it easier, not easier, but an easier time for Miro Heiskanen, who doesn't have to do as much matchup-wise because you got Tanev and you got Esa Lindell. And those guys are big physical beasts. I mean, they're tough to play against.
So Heiskanen's freed up to get offensive and create offense. Yeah, it's great. And by the way, Pierre, tonight, game time decision for Jonathan Drouin. So by the way, for all of you who watch the eye test on a regular basis, you would know that might have been happening tonight from our friend Mr. Lacroix early last week. I think it was a week ago today, actually.
Yeah, I think it's pretty close. Yeah.
Said mid-series against Dallas, maybe. That was his projection. He didn't give a guarantee, but he was right.
We're going to keep throwing out all these superlatives. The one guy who was a goalie of record in my first ever NHL coaching win, Jeff Reese. He's the goalie coach. He's the goalie coach in Dallas.
Okay.
So I would be remiss if I didn't say Jeff Reese has done a really good job with Jake Ottinger. He really has.
Good for
and Reese is not a big guy, Jimmy. He's a little bit the same size as UC Saros, at a different time in the NHL. But man, was he a smart goalie. Like Reese could really make the reads. He was plugged in. Like, how they talk about hockey sense for centermen and defensemen? He was a goalie that had an amazing hockey sense. He really did. Jeff Reese was a really good goalie. He was good.
Good call. So, yeah, Jonathan Drouin possibly coming back into the lineup for the Avs. What do the Avs have to do, Pierre, to solve Ottinger right now and have a chance to tie this series up?
Get the lead. Make a move side to side. He's standing a lot because he's so square and he's pretty big and physical, obviously. He's standing up so much. He's making it tough. On the guys coming down the wings. Well, they got to start moving the puck side to side more. They're making it too easy right now. But I would say the most important thing there, seriously, for Colorado, get the lead and force Dallas to open up.
And get that
right now, when they have the lead, they can play that shutdown system that beat the board. They're playing a 1-3-1 really well. And that sometimes they're just playing a 1-2-2. I mean, but they've done a really good job with their defense in terms of matchups. Because if you don't take the speed quotient out of Nathan McKinnon's game, you're not going to win. And they've been able to kind of neutralize. They haven't taken it all away, but they've kind of been able to neutralize it a little bit because they've had the lead. They haven't had to open up.
All right. Well, let's get right to our questions, Pierre. There was a lot to cover there, so we apologize it's so late, but it was a busy.
We'll get to the questions. We'll get there. We'll do it
right now. Here we go. Marvin Matthews. Hey, Marvin. Any thoughts on the World Championships, teams, players that are surprising? I have to confess, Marvin, I haven't had a chance to watch one game yet. I'm going to try to a little more this week. Pierre, I don't know what you've seen.
No, because I've been at the rink. I've been at the rink most of the morning. We get to the rink really early now. We started our summer training, but I do follow it. I obviously know the USA lost to Slovakia. I know Brady Tkachuk said, "I wish there was fighting allowed," which probably he shouldn't have said, but he did. I know that Canada's got Connor Bedard, and he's really good, and I know Canada's got a lot of good players, and we'll see how it all plays out. It's never – I don't want to say this in a mean-spirited way, but it's never the same event when the Russians aren't there.
Yeah,
it's just not. It's just like the World Junior. So it's just different.
I gotta say,
it doesn't mean I'm not going to watch it, but I've been at the rink actually trying to make players better.
I gotta say two things about this before we move on to. I've been noticing on Twitter, like Slavkovsky is a rock star amongst the Slovakians. Like the attention he's getting, the love he's getting over there. All the Slovakian fans I see on Twitter all have his jersey. I didn't realize how big he was already over there, Pierre. And it's pretty amazing. Montreal fans, that just must make you guys even more excited what you got coming.
Yeah. You know who's a big star like that, though? They got a guy named Hossa. They got a guy named Chara, the late Pavel Dimitra. There are a lot of guys. They've
great hockey country.
It's this amazing hockey country. Bratislava is a beautiful town if you ever get a chance to go. Obviously, the tournament's in Czech, or Czechia, I guess is what they call it now. But no, it's Slavkovsky's a star. He's definitely a star player.
And the other thing about the World Championships, Pierre, Gord Miller's tweeting pictures of Prague. I've been there. You've been there. Is that one of your favorite cities that you've been to in your wide range of places you visited?
Yeah,
your hockey trip?
Especially for hockey. One of the best, I can tell you this, one of the best Christmases we ever had was the 08 World Junior. The children were 10 and actually 8 and 6. And I'll never forget, Craig Hartsburg was a coach for Canada. Mm-hmm. And I was at the camp in I think it was in Kitchener that year. It might have been in London, but I thought it was in Kitchener. And he said, "Hey, I heard you got a kid that's a pretty good player." I said, "Yeah, but he's only 6." And he said, bring his skates. We'll take care of his stick. Don't worry. We'll just cut a little stick off and he can go on the ice for some of the guys after practice. So Craig let Ryan skate on the ice after practice. And guys like Luke Shen was there, PK Subban was there, Wayne Simon was there, John Tavares was there. It was amazing. It was unbelievable.
What a memory.
Steven Stamkos, all the Claude Giroux, and they were passing him. He was like the little mascot for the team. But we had probably the best Christmas I think our family ever had was over in Prague that year. It was really special. It was really, really good.
I mean, I got to go there in 2011 when the Bruins started their season there, and I was just
that 2011 trip, Jimmy. I know too much about it, and I wasn't there, and it's a good thing I wasn't there because I keep getting calls from one of my friends who was on the team, and you know who it is, and he's like, you know what, you should probably be here, and I'm like, I'm glad I'm not.
Let's just say they probably ran out of Gatorade a lot. All right. So, anyways, and Tylenol. Let's move on to the next question. Randy Workman, Jimmy and Pierre, how much heat should Holland get for not getting the Oilers a goalie at the deadline? I think he tried.
We talked about it. We talked about it a lot.
No, I think that's fair criticism. I do.
Yeah, I think it is too. I think that's the one. If there was one thing, the new coach had kicked in, the new assistant coach had kicked in, the player development was going really well internally. You knew Jack Campbell wasn't going to be your guy, even though he went down to the American hockey. You knew he wasn't coming back to play, so you knew you needed something else.
Yeah.
And as much as I like Calvin Pickard, and as much as I think Stuart Skinner's done some good things, I don't think that was enough. Now we'll see. We'll see. But right now,
it's not. Pierre, you say it all the time, and you're so right. Because as we're talking about this, I'm just thinking about the Toronto Maple Leafs. The Edmonton Oilers are the Leafs West.
They are
both
the
known 2 to 3 seasons that they needed a goalie, and neither team went out and got it. So
they're the Leafs West, no question. Yep.
All right, next question. John Smith, very interested to see what the Penguins do this offseason. Which direction do you see Dubas going? I feel he has his hands tied somewhat. I have.
He tied his own hands when he went on and got Erik Karlsson.
Yep.
We'll see. They need a lot of everything.
Mm-hmm.
Jake Gensel's a big loss, and I don't see him coming back. Now maybe he does, but I'd be surprised. Once you get a little taste going somewhere else, and the money's going to be different when he goes to market. I don't know if he goes back to Pittsburgh.
Well, he's going to have to take a major discount to go back to Pittsburgh, Pierre, and I just don't
he
see
will,
that happening.
unless they trade somebody that we're not aware of. But they need a lot. He's going to try to dabble in free agency, and I think he'll try to dabble on the pro trade side. But their system is not really deep. I'm just stating facts here that most people know. They just haven't. What they did was they really liquidated their future by trying to stay relevant in the present, and now the bills come in.
Yeah. So they're going to be a very interesting team in the offseason. So fair criticism there. All right, next question. Mike, every Stanley Cup winner has that one moment turning point during their road to the Cup. Would love to hear what yours was, Pierre.
When Ronnie Francis scored from center ice against the New York Rangers. 92.
Okay.
When Ronnie Francis scored from center ice, we knew. And then in 91, I could tell you right now, it was the meeting that I've told you about, Jimmy, so many times. After we're down 2-0 to Boston in the Eastern Conference Final, Joey Mullen and Kevin Stevens took over, and it was amazingly powerful.
Yeah.
It just changed. It was like an instantaneous sea change.
Yeah.
And everybody bought in, and it was, okay, here we go. Let's go. And we did. So
good stuff.
Yeah.
All right, next question. Eric Landreau, I think the major factor to the Rangers' success is their ability not to panic. We're starting to see the maturity of this core group, but do you think their opportunistic style is sustainable?
Yes, I do, because they got big people on defense.
Mm-hmm.
They moved the puck really well. We didn't talk about him the other day. We should have. Keandre Miller has really improved. I think Phil Halsey deserves some credit there. Keandre's really improved under Phil. He's really taken another step. And if you've got Jacob Trouba playing in your 5-6 hole, a lot of times he is, That's pretty like that's a deep defense. So
Yeah.
I do think it's sustainable because their defense is big and mobile, and they got an elite goalie. I mean, Shesterkin is elite.
Yeah.
So they can play that sustainable hockey that you're talking about.
And they've got a good coach as well in Laviolette. So, all right, next question. A to Z me. Hey, gents, McDavid needs some serious on-ice protection, or he's going to get targeted every playoff series. What do you guys think management should do to remedy that situation for this year, next year, etc.? Pierre, I just want to say quickly, completely agree with A to Z me on this, and I would hope that would be something they address. But, I'm watching that Bruins game last night, and Pat Maroon, I forget it was the beginning of the second, maybe end of the first, beginning of the second, when he was – yeah, and he's challenging Kachuk. He challenges Bennett. He's challenging basically the whole team, and nobody wants to dance. So I agree those things need to be addressed, but at the same time, it seems to me more and more they're unable to be addressed eventually on the ice, and it's just the way the game's going right now. I don't know if you disagree with me.
No, but the other team needs to know if you're going to take a liberty with one of our star players, and he's obviously not just a star; he's one of the faces of the league.
Mm-hmm.
There's going to be a toll to pay.
Yeah.
If you don't have a nuclear deterrent, nobody's afraid of you.
Yep.
So it would probably be a wise decision to get in. And that's by the way, I don't want to plagiarize. That's a Brian Burkeism. And I worked for Brian, and I completely agree. When he told me that, I was like, yep, I agree with you.
It's true. Pierre, you look at it, though, for the Bruins situation there, when I ask you, though, can Pat Maroon still be that deterrent?
Well, foot speed's an issue, and Father Time's catching up for Patty. So I don't know if he can do that over the course of an 82-game schedule. I think in a small sample size like the playoffs can be, he can. And, he says a lot of smart things. He does. He handles himself really well post-game and pregame.
I don't have the sound, but I don't know if you saw what he said today.
No, I did not.
He said, I just wanted to beat the bleep out of somebody. That's it. Nobody would
surprise me. Yeah.
He's very blunt. I like his quotes. All right, next question. Filterless Bear, remember Vancouver drafting back-to-back for the Sedins? How sweet would it be for Montreal to trade to go back-to-back with Lindstrom and Seneke at 5 and 6?
So I will tell you this right now. I remember that was a 1999 draft when you talk about the Sedins. I don't have my notes in front of me.
Oh, yeah.
And that was orchestrated by one Brian P. Burke.
There we go.
And that was a heist of all heists, because if you look at that draft, 1999, not even close.
Mm-hmm.
The worst draft in NHL history. Patrick Stefan went number 1. That's not his fault, but he went number 1. But if you look at that draft from the start of the draft to the end of the draft, it's not even close.
Yep.
Worst draft in NHL history.
So
what Berkey did there, he drafted 2 Hall of Famers.
Yeah.
Who are amazing. By the way, the Sedins are amazing people. They weren't just great players. They're amazing people. I'll never forget, we were stuck at an airport. It was a weather problem, and we had to make an emergency landing. I want to say it was somewhere in Iowa. I'm not kidding. We were going to Chicago, and from St. Louis, I think, actually. And we had to go and land in Iowa. The weather was so bad, and it was a hellacious flight. It was a hellacious flight, I'm just telling you. And they had to catch a flight to Sweden. So they were going to miss their connection. So I said to them, look, guys, I got a room. It's a big room at the Hilton Hotel at the airport in Chicago. I'm going to be able to make my connection. I know you guys won't. Do you want to take? No. We'll sleep at the airport like everybody else. We'll be okay.
Wow.
And this is the kind of people they are. They were raised unbelievably well. They're really, really high-end people. Tremendous people.
Pierre, I want to quickly, too, and it looks like we don't have any more questions, but, after what Berkey did, how, if you can remember in the next few years, the next few drafts after that, how hesitant were GMs to ever allow that to happen, or were they ever in a position to do it?
I don't know how hesitant. I was in TV by that point, but there were 2 drafts of Brian. Actually, there were 3. So the Pavel Bure 6th round pick, Berkey was involved in that in Vancouver. Then he drafted Pronger number 2, and he had to move up. Hartford was at 5, I think, that year.
Okay.
And Berkey moved from 5 to 2 to do that. And he had to involve Calgary and San Jose. It was really crafty by Brian. He was really good setting up for the draft picks. He really was. Brian was excellent at that. And then, the 99 draft, he was off the charts.
That's awesome.
And then I think some of his best wizardry was the 07 Cup for Anaheim. If you look at bringing in Robbie Niedermeyer, bringing in Christopher Pronger, bringing in Scott Niedermeyer.
Amy Paulson.
You know what I'm saying? You look at all the guys, Sammy Paul, you look at all the guys that Berkey brought in for that. And a lot of those players were already drafted by Anaheim because of Brian Murray and Chuck Fletcher and David McNabb and the work that they had done. But that Berkey did some amazing work for that 07.
He filled the slots that needed to be filled.
Yeah, he was really good at identifying team strengths and weaknesses. The one time that I don't think he did that was in Vancouver when they had those super elite teams. And I think they just were so confident that Dan Cloutier could get the job done that they didn't really address the goalie stuff. And Dan had amazing regular season. Jimmy, he was so good in the regular season. Yep. For whatever reason, now a lot of times they had to play against Detroit or a really good team. They just couldn't get past them. But that was the one little place where Berkey never could get free and get one more player to kind of get his team over the top.
Stuff. Well, we'll have to get Berkey on the show sometime, Pierre.
You know what? He's been very busy with the women's hockey, the PH.
That's right,
yeah,
the
PW.
playoffs are going on. So maybe in the off season we'll do that.
No,
By the way,
you know what? I'm going to text Berkey tonight and see if he wouldn't come on before the end of the week, because I think he'd be really good, especially with the officiating stuff. People forget he was the dean of discipline in the league. Yep. And there was no messing around. People knew, you didn't mess around.
Yeah.
So.
Yep. That would be great. And Pierre, his son too, does video review for the league. He's done a great job there. I got to sit in one night while they're doing all the games and just watch what they do. It's amazing all the work that goes on behind the scenes there. Listen, we want to thank everyone for chiming in on the comment section and with your questions. And we are going to have a good guest tomorrow, Pierre, to tee up Game 5 for Florida Panthers, Boston Bruins. He will be in Fort Lauderdale, Florida.
He won't be golfing? Is he going to golf tomorrow?
He'll be golfing as we speak, right after he gets off the plane, Pierre. I'm sure he's going to sneak in
Andy Brickley.
At least 9 holes. That is former Boston Bruin and Nesson Carlo man Andy Brickley will be joining us here on the Eye Test. So looking forward to talking with Brick. I was with him last night, sitting a couple seats down from me. Says to say hello to you, Pierre. And so we will discuss the Bruins, Panthers, and all things Stanley Cup playoffs with Brick tomorrow. And we want to thank our production crew in Montreal. He's Pierre McGuire. I'm Jimmy Murphy. This has been another edition of the Eye Test here in the Sick Podcast Network.
And that's a wrap. Hope you don't miss us too much until next time. Follow the Eye Test with Pierre McGuire and Jimmy Murphy on YouTube, Facebook, Google Play, and Apple Podcasts.